So you want to know what the next raid's going to look like. Well, this is your best bet. Hey everyone, Derpy here, and welcome back to another Battle Pirates video. Quick background before we get started. I'm going through the VXP targets live in the game right now. I've done quite a lot of testing, and I'm trying to get you prepared for the next raid. Obviously, this is 100% completely subject to change. Kixeye could replace the entire thing, and I wouldn't have any clue what to do about it. If you remember the Punisher Mark II raid cycle or the Dragoon raid cycle, they did change a few things around. I don't expect that to happen, but it might. We expect the final targets to have a very similar mechanic to these targets, if not identical. It has been for the past few raids, but of course it will be a different layout. This target you're seeing right now is not the final layout that it's going to be. Also, Kixeye will release their own strategy guide, or as I'm calling it, a target recon. That will just come out about a week before the raid, way too late to do anything about it. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. By the way, I am trying out something completely different, took like way more work. If you enjoy it, share the video, leave a like. Those things do actually help out, and just let me know people appreciate the work I'm putting in. That's about all it does actually get me. The first turret we're focusing on is the Decimator shown right here. This thing is medium range, which easily outranges you because your reclaimers have a very short range of 62-ish. This thing should outrange you in pretty much all circumstances, does ballistic damage, evade works against this turret, and it doesn't do any splash, at least as far as I can tell. I will note that this turret does look a bit out of place. Maybe the art department got laid off, or they've been working on the HTML5 stuff. I've got no clue, but expect a medium range ballistic turret that outranges you in these targets, and it's nothing too special. There's also a UAV turret in here, which is much more complicated. It has a pretty long range and will spit out a salvo of 6 shots at you. It does ballistic damage, interestingly enough, and Missile Defense System 3 and Sprints both work against this. Missile Defense System 3 is far better, as I'm about to show you. I've got 2 different Everests I'm going to use, and I should put their stat blocks up on screen just so you can compare them. This first one I'm bringing against here has 2 Missile Defense System 3s on here. It's going to shoot at every incoming projectile at least one time, which is fantastic. 6 shots come in, and all 6 get taken down. Roughly 75% average. You can see that time it actually took down 2, which is the worst I've ever seen it perform. This time it took down 5 out of 6, and let's see here, 6 out of 6. It works pretty well at taking down the UAVs, and I want to use 2 Missile Defense System 3 on here, and that should be enough for the entire fleet. Missile Defense System 3 has a salvo of 10, which means you can shoot at 10 things before you need to reload. Reloading takes between a second and 2 seconds, depending on how things work out here, or if I don't actually feel like doing the math. But you should not need to shoot at more than 20 UAVs in 1 or 2 seconds in the entire target. There just are not that many not that many UAVs in the target, rather. It is not very target dense. Also notice I do have 2 Gales on here, or I'll tell you I have 2 Gales on this ship, and they're not firing whatsoever. Do not expect Gales to fire. Let's go ahead and bring in another ship here. This one has sprint countermeasures, 2 of them, and 2 Gales. Again, Gales won't fire. I'm going to park it next to the ship so you can see that the UAVs are going to chain off that first ship. If I'm close enough, they'll chain onto the next one, or at least they should if they behave properly. There you go. You saw one ship chain on here. Maybe you can see it again. And the thing takes damage. It chains across all 5 ships. Also notice no evade is working, things are not missing, 100% accurate. Let's now move the ship that was taking down like 75-80% and replace it with the sprints. Sprints are horrible, they're hardly working. This is because I don't have a special on here, and I don't think one exists in the game that boosts damage type countermeasure accuracy, whereas anti-missile accuracy can be buffed, and we got a special for that for our reclaimers. Sprint, not very effective. Go with 2 Missile Defense System 3 on the entire fleet. If you really want to, maybe 4, but it really shouldn't need that. And of course, I talked about evade not working and how this changed across all 5 ships, and it does ballistic damage to all of them. Just be aware of that. UAV turret, a little bit more complicated. Our next subject is a launcher turret. This thing is long range, pretty similar range to the UAV, if not identical, and it deals radioactive damage. Notice how it's going to shoot at the ship, and it can miss a few times, which you should see once I get in range here. Shoots very, very rapidly, and it takes 6 shots that hit to land off a shockwave in at least some certain period of time. With a decent high amount of evade, you can see the evade for the ship on screen. It should miss almost every single time in the time it takes you to get close and kill it. And notice after that initial shockwave happens, every next hit also shockwaves, which is a behavior I believe we actually saw with the Gladius raid targets, so keep in mind about this thing. The projectile evade works against this thing, as you can see. It doesn't do splash to anything around you, but the shockwave evade does not work. If it hits, it shockwaves, and the shockwave is always going to hit everything in that surrounded area as an area of effect. There's your long-range launcher turret. It also does have a pretty high minimum range. As you can see, I'm going to get inside close to it, and it's going to stop firing right here. So it has a pretty high minimum range. Alright, the next thing in the center of the target is a Gatling Gun. This again has long range and easily outranges you. All of these targets do, all the medium range stuff, all the long range stuff, it all easily outranges your reclaimers, although I am driving Gladius just because I don't have a full reclaimer. This thing shoots like a bubble of some sort, as you can see, and it misses. It can hit behind you. It's dumbfire area of effect. You're watching it, and it can land behind you. If you make a quick turn like that, it's going to probably hit you, but you can see that the thing is hitting behind you. You can outrun this thing. You can dodge this, and it does ballistic damage. Evade does not work against this because it's area of effect, but your main thing you want to do here is outrange it. It's going to keep firing at you for a while, and let's see if we can get close to it. And it has... well, it might or might not have a minimum range, but it died pretty quickly, so I couldn't quite tell. There is your Gatling Gun, long-range ballistic, keep moving, don't stop. Next up is this Draconian Outpost. This thing's pretty simple. It just deploys a red ring near it that does damage to you if you go inside, and that damage is radioactive. Once you kill this thing, which should be pretty easy once your fleet is fully built up, the red ring goes away. Nothing super fancy about that. But it is generally right next to a few other things. This radio tower here shrouds your nearby friendly Farsight turret. This blue thing is friendly, and once you kill the radio tower, it's going to unshroud. So let's go ahead and do that. This thing actually does have quite a bit of health, but as you can see, once that happens, now we're into the Farsight. The Farsight is friendly, as you can see, and shoots at enemy stuff, primarily the enemy fire support, which we will get into. And you're going to actually be able to heal this thing with your reclaimer, so let me bring my reclaimer over. And you're going to notice a health transfer, or just a healing effect, no transfer. It doesn't take away from your health, it just heals this guy. And it will also draw fire. It can get damaged by the enemy stuff, which you're seeing here. You can also see the little plus sign by my reclaimer, showing that I am healing the turret, which is a pretty good thing. I will note that the hit points don't quite seem right on this, because... it's not really taking damage, and while I am healing it, I don't really see the bar moving. It's very, very small. I expect something is a little bit off here. This was firing at this platform right here, which has a few turrets on it. It doesn't really damage turrets, but it does damage the node that you can see here, which is all shown above screen. It damages those things, which we'll get into in just a second, and this is across the entire target. You can see their firing arcs right here, and other places in the target. Again, if you mouse over those firing arcs might go away until you shift click the turrets. Just be aware of that. You might have to hover over them, do some other stuff. But these shoot and damage only the fire support nodes. They don't damage turrets as of this time. Even though they do shoot at them, it does 2 damage to a turret with 10 billion health or something. Not really effective. There are your friendly fire support, or there are your friendly Farsight turrets. And these things are used to take out the fire support structures. The fire support structures are these. We've been informed, at least through Discord general chat, that this buffs nearby enemy turret damage. If I hover over them, it only actually highlights one closest target. I'm not totally sure why. I don't really have any ways to know this. The thing we've been told is that this buffs nearby turret damage. And this will be important when we get into discussing strategies about how to kill things more quickly and more efficiently for the target. In general, you're going to want to try and target the radio towers early. Take down the radio tower so the Farsight unlocks and kills the fire support platform, so these turrets do less damage. But don't spend too much time or too much energy doing that. I'm sure will make more sense when we actually get into the raid a few weeks from now and start going through that. Also, use evade on at least one ship. The only things that damaged a ship I took in here with 97% evade were the ballistic Gatling Gun turret as well as the UAVs. Evade works really, really well against these launcher guys right here, which again do have a pretty high minimum range, and it works fantastic against these Decimators. Evade can help out a lot against these two things. In general, you're going to want to arrive at the platform, get pretty close, kill the Decimators, then the UAVs, and then this guy once you're already inside its minimum range. And that is, of course, after you've killed the fire support platform so that the UAVs and everything else is doing less damage to you. Also, try and use your friendly aura ability. I'm sure it will be more relevant in the raid, or at least it's kind of a wasted stat, and use that to heal the friendly turrets, which will help out too. And again, stay moving against these large ballistic Gatling gun turrets, because they can miss if you do stay moving. And of course, last but not least, remember to just blow things up and do lots of damage. Don't get too caught up in the finer details. Kill things as quickly as possible and take the least amount of damage doing it. I know that's not really the answer that you wanted, or maybe makes sense to you. But there is my target recon. I hope this is helpful. Again, things like this might change. I might even have made a mistake. Who knows? If you have feedback on this, let me know. If you have questions, let me know. And as always, this is Derpy, signing out, helping you be a better pirate.